Hi, it's John Degatati here from Supply Partners. We're here at the Australian Solar Council Exhibition for 2016 in Melbourne. I'm here with Michael Valantine of MV Solar. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, John. Great to be here.
Tell me about MV Solar, and you were saying off camera earlier a little bit about some Fiji interests as well.
Yeah, well, MV Solar basically started off from my interest in the solar industry, and I've been involved in the industry for doing electronics, electrical and engineering and renewable energy for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I was involved in TAFE New South Wales for 23 and actually started the first renewable energy courses in TAFE New South Wales back in the early 90s. So it's been a passion for me, solar, and from that passion, I suppose, in the early days, there wasn't many people out there with expertise.
Sure.
And we had a lot of customers that were just, or not even customers, just people wanting to learn about solar, and they would come and see me and say, well, I need somebody to install, I need some solutions for solar, and that's how I started a part-time business, and from that, obviously, it ballooned and grew back in 2010.
That's it's always interesting having a chat with someone who's, I guess, with that sort of level of experience in this particular industry, because it's always these anecdotes about, panels being worth $1,000 only 10 years ago, and it's been quite a growth profile, and as such a maturing industry, it must be a pleasure for you personally to see that that maturity of the industry and where it's come from, and now that it is actually a viable business for you to have in MV Solar.
It is, and it's quite amazing where it did come from. So, even when I was at Meadowbank TAFE in Sydney, we had students build a solar car for the World Solar Challenge, which we actually entered in '93, and that was an experience in itself. But I didn't actually think there'd be a viable industry in maybe not in my lifetime, because the cost of the equipment was so expensive. But I think there was almost like a perfect storm, especially in Australia, and in New South Wales especially. We had a lot of rebates come in through the federal government and also feedback tariffs through the New South Wales government with the 60-cent feed-in, and that really highlighted solar. But I think the government didn't realise what was going to happen then either, because at the same time we had China get involved in manufacturing, and the cost of panels dropped by a third in 5 years. So you got that dropping down, and you got the cost of electricity doubling. Hey, it was like the perfect storm of solar, and then now we've got thousands of experts everywhere. But realistically, when you look back at what's happened, traditionally it's all coming from a battery background. People in off-grid situations, because they couldn't afford the cost of power, they would have small little battery systems. Now you can actually have off-grid systems that are affordable and comparable to being connected to the grid. It's actually cheaper than being connected, because once you buy it, it's there, it's done. Whereas if you pay for a connection to the grid in country areas, it can be quite expensive.
Sure.
It can be $50,000, $100,000, even $150,000 just to connect, just for the privilege of being connected to the grid. So from going that aspect to say, okay, well, let's forget about that, put that money into a solar system, and you can be completely independent forever. The Grid Connect systems, which have been sort of ballooned for the last sort of 7, 8, 10 years, that's really got the solar name out there. But the problem is out there in the community, and this is what I find, especially drawing on my background as being a teacher, is that people just don't understand about solar. They've heard about it, they see people in the solar panels everywhere, but they don't understand about it.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to compare panels with this panel and that inverter and this and that. Well, okay, I can look at a spec sheet as well, and all spec sheets look fantastic, especially when you're talking about a manufacturer. They're always trying to promote their product in the best light. So really, my advice to people out there is to actually look past the spec sheet, look to the company that you actually want to partner with, because really it's a partnership. It's not just about buying a product and supplying and installing and going away. It should be a partnership forever, because you should have regular maintenance to make sure the system works properly. Now, if you have a company that doesn't provide regular maintenance or doesn't even offer that as an option, you've got to question why they're there.
Yeah.
Can they actually tell you who's the installer that's going to be putting it on their roof? I'm one of the installers that are out there, maybe not as often as I should be, but I have a team that we employ. We don't use subcontractors.
Yeah.
So it all comes back to us and our supply chain. The panels and equipment we use is only the best.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to keep coming back to it, and I want a system that performs. So I always say to people, and I say to customers, hey, well, if you want a cheap system, sorry, we don't provide that. Yeah. So you can either have a cheap system, or you can have one that works, and one that continues to work.
Relationship for the long term, maintenance schedules, quality of equipment.
Yep.
Very interested to understand, from a futurist perspective, been so far back in the industry, where do you see the industry in 2 years' time, and let's say MV Solar and also interested to hear a bit more about your Fiji interests. Where are they going to be all in 2 years' time?
All right. Well, there's probably about 7 questions there, but I'll try and
Mate.
hand it down on one.
I'm not a professional interviewer.
I'm not a professional interviewee, but really, I look at what happened with us. I mean, I started teaching, started a part-time business due to demand, which sort of grew into a reasonable sized company. We're still a small company, but our interest in Fiji, well, that comes about, most of our work comes from word of mouth.
Yeah.
You don't need to go and advertise if you're doing the right thing, and that's why I look at it and I say, well, people doing the right thing, they'll tell 10 people.
Yeah.
If you're doing the wrong thing, they'll tell 100. So my idea is to make sure that we keep doing the right thing and we partner with people and make sure that happens. So from that, and because I've had that experience in the industry, I can look forward as well as back and draw on that experience to say, hang on, how we can have this situation, there's the need, how we can make that change. Now, to get to Fiji was simply just word of mouth again, and people having a need for solar on that in Fiji, and I got not dragged over there, I got taken over there to actually look at the situation and possibilities of actually establishing a company there in Fiji. And it's taken 5 years of discussions with the government, with ministers, with large industry, with communities, with villages, and there's a desperate need for that there, but they're even worse off than us. Yeah. You think we don't know about solar, you should see it in these countries. But as far as the future of the solar industry is concerned, well, I don't necessarily have a crystal ball, but I do know the needs of people for power. People need power and they need more and more power every day. And sometimes when you go to a place like Fiji where people are still living without power at all, and they have like 1,000 years, it makes you then realise, okay, where it comes from and where we can actually go to. So my belief is microgrids. So that's where it's going to happen. The network itself, unfortunately in Australia we've got a problem where the network's been broken up. We've sold off the generators, we've sold off the power poles and wires, we've sold off people selling the electricity. So everybody has their own competing interest, and none of them want solar because it's just reducing their little slice of the pie. Yeah. But really, if you put solar on, you're reducing the costs all the way down, you're having less generators. It's a huge saving for the government. But the government can't see it because they don't own it all anymore. In Fiji, it's different. The government still owns all their infrastructure. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be having a meeting with the Prime Minister to discuss a lot of these issues, not necessarily about our company, but about what we can do about policy, about regulation, how they can make it work properly for them, how they can have properly accredited installers and people doing it, what they do about training, and the equipment that they bring in there. And actually have a plan for the future for Fiji. Now that can be an example for what we can do for the rest of the world. And so my vision with that is the microgrids, and is people actually privately putting that infrastructure in and maintaining it.
It's a significant vision. I really appreciate your insights into where you see the future going, and highlighting at the most basic level that energy is a basic human need. Very happy to have a conversation with you, Michael, today. One of the godfathers of the industry, if you don't mind me using that term.
Okay.
And
thank you.
MV Solar, Michael Valantine. Thank you very, very much, my friend.
Appreciate the time. Thank you very much.